With the stock market at record highs, are you prepared for the next downturn? Corrections can be unforgiving. Smart investors know diversification is the key to financial security. Noble Gold Investments make it easy to diversify with gold. With over $2 billion in sales, Noble Gold has helped thousands of Americans add gold to their portfolios. Open a qualified account today and receive 2 5-ounce silver America the Beautiful coins as a thank you. NobleGoldInvestments.com. Don't let the next correction catch you off guard. NobleGoldInvestments.com.
You know, I think it's important that we keep the show rolling here, Blake. I mean, that confirmation hearing with RFK was pretty explosive at times. I knew that he was going to be coming into a hostile environment, but I actually didn't anticipate the sort of moralizing and the virtue signaling from the Democrats that we saw there. Actually, I knew it was going to be like a 5-6 at least, but I think what we saw was like an 8-9 to a 10 at times. Grandstanding from Bernie Sanders, grandstanding from Senator Warren, and Senator Hassan from New Hampshire. I mean, the list goes on. They all came at him very hot. What do you make of the environment within the confirmation hearing?
Well, I'm definitely not surprised about it, Andrew, because you have to think all the factors that could come into play to make this a barn burner hearing are there. First of all, he is a former Democrat. He ran for president as a Democrat. So that means two things. They can be angry at him for being, a traitor, not one of their own. It also means they have reason to think we can possibly sink this guy. He's not someone Republicans are naturally aligned with, Republican senators, I should say. And so if they think they can take him out, they're going to go harder, I think. Also, he's plausibly the reason they lost the election. Not, we won well enough. I don't think you can say he was 100% needed, but he gave the Trump campaign a lot of energy right after the Democratic convention, right around that time.
I was about to
really built that coalition. So they can dislike him for that reason. And of course, there's also lurking in the background the economic reason. There's obviously, there's reasons they can give to oppose all of Trump's picks. But RFK is the one where you can say there is a large vested interest in the United States, both in government and in the private sector, that really, really badly does not want this to go through, which means they're able to spend millions of dollars on the Oppo, on the background networking. Like, there can be this vast ad hoc apparatus to stop this nomination, which means they're all going to have the opposition research they can draw on. They can get like professional coaching from the lobbyists who will say, you need to do this, you need to say this. So they're going to make the full court press. And, the pressure is on for Trump, for MAGA, for Maha, to make it clear to Republicans that they need to make this confirmation, because Republicans will look for an out on this if they can. And, it's like the line from Star Wars, like, fear will keep the rebel senators in line. Fear of MAGA.
Well, I think this is a clip that really sums it up well, Blake. This was Senator Bennett from Colorado just screaming at RFK Jr., basically saying he was playing games, he's going to kill people. 143.
This matters. It doesn't matter what you come here and say that isn't true, that's not reflective of what you really believe, that you haven't said over decade after decade after decade, because unlike other jobs we're confirming around this place, this is a job where it is life and death for the kids that I used to work for in the Denver public schools, and for families all over this country that are suffering from living in the richest country of the world that can't deliver basic health care and basic mental health care to them. It's too important for the games that you're playing, Mr. Kennedy. And I hope my colleagues will say to the president, I have no influence over him. I hope my colleagues will say to the president, out of 330 million Americans, we can do better than this.
Well, and so that seems to be the crux of I would say the main thrust of the argument is that RFK is considered anti-vax. And so there was a lot of these exchanges going back and forth about this particular topic, specifically around the vaccine topic. I personally believe that, he made some good points. He called Senator Wyden dishonest. We're going to pull that clip. He said repeatedly that he's not anti-vax, but that he is asking uncomfortable questions through his advocacy. I want to take you back in time to this clip, which has been going around the internet lately. This is from 2005, Blake, where he was talking with Joe Scarborough. Remember, he's still considered a Democrat in good standing at this point in history. Play cut 140.
My son, born in 1991, has a slight form of autism called Asperger's. But it seems, and again, when I was practicing law and also when I was in Congress, parents would constantly come to me and they'd bring me videotapes of their children, and they were all around the age of my son or younger.
The generation,
something happened in 1989.
Exactly. The generation, what happened was the vaccine schedule was increased. We went up from receiving about 10 vaccines in our generation to these kids received 24 vaccines. And they all had this thimerosal in them, this mercury, and nobody bothered to do an analysis of what the cumulative impact of all that mercury was doing to kids. As it turns out, we are injecting our children with 400 times the amount of mercury that FDA or EPA considers safe.
Now, Blake, I know you're kind of a contrarian when it comes to RFK, as you are with many things. We love that about you. It's sometimes annoying, but we love it about you. But so what, from your perspective, as somebody that would call some of this junk science, that would call some of it woo-woo, this is what so much of this hearing is hinging upon. Where does the line between asking tough questions, uncomfortable questions, and woo-woo science come into play? Because it strikes me that asking tough questions is what will propel truth forward, will propel real science forward, instead of, relying on these institutionalized, calcified places like the FDA, CDC, and NIH.
Well, first of all, we're really seeing sort of the peril of existing in the modern age. Like RFK in this confirmation, to some extent, he's a victim of just being a famous person for decades on end with a consistent portfolio. He's been in the public arena. He was involved, he's really gotten involved on medical questions, on other topics too, but he's really been on the vaccine beat. And so he just has decades of things that he said. And I don't think RFK Jr. he probably never really planned to run for president the way he did. He probably never planned that he would be certainly not a Republican administration. And so, he's not a doctor. And so he's, over his history, he's had statements that are not fully precise. He's probably occasionally said things that outran 100% of what he believes or 100% what he could prove. He'll say things that are provocative or thought-provoking, and now he's up for a serious position, and he has to say, okay, like, what I seriously believe at the moment is X, Y, and Z. And it's not super surprising, I think
that's smart. I think that's smart, Blake.
Yeah, so it's not super surprising that Congress is raking him over the coals. I think it's the job of RFK's supporters, RFK himself, and our show here, to make it clear what he really believes, what he's saying, which is defensible, versus what is essentially fear-mongering by his opponents. And I think he's striking a good tone where he's saying, I am not anti-vaccine because I don't think we want polio to come back. I don't think we want measles to come back. But what is true is we have, in our recent history, a vaccine that was very scientifically novel, that was pushed out very quickly, very aggressively. People were compelled to take it in situations that seemed very dubious, and that has created a huge amount of distrust. And I think the room is there for him to say, we actually need more investigation to restore public confidence that has been so badly damaged by elite healthcare decision makers.
Blake, I want to play this clip. I think it illustrates kind of what you're talking about with some of the things that RFK Jr. has said in the past. Maybe he wants to walk those back. Maybe he's refined his position. But I thought it was illustrative nonetheless. This is another exchange he had with Senator Bennett talking about Lyme disease. 147.
did you say that Lyme disease is highly likely a materially engineered bioweapon? I made sure I put in the highly likely. Did you say Lyme disease is a highly likely militarily engineered bioweapon?
I probably did say that.
Did you say that?
And that's what the developer of
I
Lyme
want all
disease
of our
said.
colleagues to hear it, Mr. Kennedy. I want them to hear it. You said yes.
Senator Bennett's getting really into this one. But that's an example of, I actually would love to hear the rest of the exchange. I don't think we have that tape. But, he was constantly getting cut off, and you could actually see them using his speech impediment. It's, forgive me, I can't remember the exact name of the condition, but they were using it against him because they knew that he couldn't reply back in a rapid pace, and so they would use that against him and cut him off repeatedly, which was another theme that we saw in this confirmation here. Blake.
Yeah, I have enjoyed it because even with I think spasmodic dysphonia, I think is what they call it. Yeah, dysphonia is what he has. But despite that, he's been like very, he's been aggressive. What senator was it where he basically just said like it is like maliciously dishonest to present what I said that way?
Senator Wyden.
Yeah, like very combative compared to even the other hearings we've had so far. Hegseth was a forceful guy, but I don't think he had an exchange like that with any of his senators.
No. I think you're right. 139, we have that clip. It's a good clip. Let's go ahead and play it.
All of these things cannot be true. So, are you lying to Congress today when you say you are pro-vaccine? Or did you lie on all those podcasts?
As you know, because it's been repeatedly debunked, that statement that I made on the Lex Friedman podcast was a fragment of the statement. I said there are no vaccines that are safe and effective, and I was going to continue for every person. Every medicine has people who are sensitive to them, including vaccines.
Right. So
he interrupted me at that point. I've corrected it many times, including on national TV. You know about this, Senator Wyden. So bringing this up right now is dishonest.
Boom. Blake, your reaction to, this sort of is the clip that you were referencing where he was pretty combative back, pretty aggressive back, in which we all know President Trump loves to see a fighter.
Exactly. And I think he's got to do it because they have the attacks ready to bring against him. We know for a fact this is one of the big four really controversial nominees that President Trump made. We know Charlie's told us that there are people in Trump's circle who said, don't make this nominee, just bail on that promise. There are people looking for excuses to vote against him. And so, as you say, Trump likes a warrior. Trump has faced unlimited opposition in the past decade, and he overcame it by fighting directly through it in the most straightforward way imaginable. So he'll definitely respect someone who does the same. And I think that respect is what he needs, because you have to have Trump, you have to have MAGA saying this nomination is essential. This is a promise the president made. And if you vote against this, you are abetting the failure of President Trump to keep his promises, and that will be remembered. That will reflect on whether you are supported the next time you are up for office. It will reflect whether we fund a primary challenge to you. And that threat has to be there to make sure people stay in line, because we should be honest with ourselves. This is not a nomination other Republicans would make, and it's one that Republicans would not conventionally vote for. So they have to be pressured heavily to stay in line.
Well, and we also saw Nicole Shanahan is going out making very direct threats of primarying senators that vote against RFK Jr. That was, of course, his running mate when he was still running for Congress. He also made another viral clip here, Blake, that President Trump is going to like very much. Play cut 142.
I don't want to take food away from anybody. If you like a cheeseburger, a McDonald's cheeseburger, a Diet Coke, which my boss loves, and you should be able to get them. If you want to eat Hostess Twinkies, you should be able to do that. But you should know what the impacts are on your family and on your health.
So you're still going to be able to get McDonald's, Blake. All praise. McDonald's is still be available.